Some really strange news, I guess you could say, coming out of Egypt. Although I don't know how strange it is. It's probably just bad news. That's the best way of putting it. General el-Sissi is now officially president-elect in Egypt. He just won the election. Reason I'm putting that in quotes is that he got 96.9% of the vote. Yeah. Here's a little clue. Here's a hint for people trying to steal an election. Go with 54%. What is it? How stupid are people? What, do you know nothing about history, you dipshits? The only time anybody ever gets over 80% in an election is if they fucking stole it. Every time, ever. It's a dictator who's putting on a sham election. And then they, 99.3% of people voted for me, man. Yeah. Nobody could agree on 99% of, anything. I always bring this up on air, but it's like, even if you ask the question in a poll, do you like mother? You're not going to get over 98%. Some people are, no, my mom's a bitch. It doesn't matter what the question is. Are rainbows pretty? People just, fuck rainbows. It'll only get 89% approval. So you're telling me you won an election with 96.9% of the vote? It's clear the guy stole it. There's no question about it. Look, if let's say they stole it and they said 54%, I might not have even known that they stole it. I might be like, I don't know, maybe he won. Who knows? But they put 96.9 like idiots. So, why is this bad news? Well, the history of Egypt in modern times has been insane. So, of course, Mubarak was a dictator and a strongman who led the country for a very, very long time. And there was unrest that was growing in Egypt when he was leading the country. Eventually, he was ousted. There was a revolution. Now, after that, there was an election. Now, was the first election democratic? I don't know, to be honest with you. There are some reports that Mohammed Morsi, who, of course, is from the Muslim Brotherhood, there are some reports that he stole the original election, but to be clear, it was all bad choices. So it was all people who represented the old regime, like all people who were close with Mubarak running, and then Mohammed Morsi, who was the Muslim Brotherhood. So there was no like real moderate candidate who would somewhat represent the people. So they went with Morsi. Some people say it was stolen. Other people say, no, it wasn't stolen. He legitimately won. But then when Mohammed Morsi got in power, he did a power grab. We covered that on the show before, how they came out with this new constitution, and the constitution was a little too overtly religious, and it gave a little too much power to Mohammed Morsi, so there was another democratic, organic uprising, and they toppled Mohammed Morsi. So that was like revolution number 2. Now, I came on air when that happened, and I say, look, I'll give them a mulligan, to use a golf term. The idea is, well, you had one election, it might have been stolen, it might not have been stolen, but now the guy did a power grab. Okay, you want to toss him out, I get it. And then the idea was, well, now you put somebody else in. And like I said at the time, man, that's it. After you get one mulligan for a democracy, or else you're just a failed state. If you keep, ousting people who you elect, you're just a failed state. There's no stable government, and you're just a fucking mob. It's mob rule that no matter what the ideology is of the person in power, whether it's somebody who's a moderate, or whether it's somebody who's an Islamist, or whether it's somebody who represents the old regime, if you keep tossing everybody of all different beliefs out, you're not doing it right. Something's wrong with you. It's not just the person in power. But now with General el-Sissi winning with 96.9% of the vote and stealing the election, and the story behind what happened in the election is beyond comical. It was supposed to originally be, a certain time frame that you could vote, then they extended it one day, then they extended it another day, and there were reports that the reason why they were doing that is because they didn't want to have it up in the air, like they wanted a big turnout so they could say, no, it's 100% Democratic that he won. You can't say only a small percentage won. Only small percentage voted, because that was one of the arguments used against Morsi. That, okay, yeah, he won, but only a small percentage of people voted in the election anyway, so it's not really democratic. So they kept adding time, and the excuses were comical. At one point, they were like, there was a heat wave the last 2 days, so we needed to add another day of voting. Really, dude? They're on some of the news stations on TV over there. They would mock people who weren't voting. They would say, oh, you're unpatriotic, you're terrible, you're bad people, how dare you not vote in the election? They actually announced that they would fine people, I think it was the equivalent of $70, which is a shitload of money in Egypt. They're like, we're going to fine you if you don't vote. What the fuck is going on here? This is insanity. So the whole thing was just this gigantic ruse to get el-Sissi in power. And it's a scary thing because el-Sissi was the general, so it's like essentially a military junta now. There's just like military control of Egypt. And keep in mind, man, look, I'm no fan of the Muslim Brotherhood. Not by any stretch of the imagination. I hate all religion. I hate religious political parties even more because I believe in separation of church and state. That's like a basic Enlightenment principle. But there are reports, and we covered it on air a while back, that General el-Sissi was the person who authorized the violent crackdown of peaceful Muslim protesters. Think about that. So people were protesting in favor of Mohammed Morsi, and they were being peaceful. And keep in mind, the Muslim Brotherhood was banned in Egypt under Mubarak. And then when Morsi got in power and then he was ousted, the military and el-Sissi, they wanted to re-ban the Muslim Brotherhood. So they see peaceful protesters and they crack down. They banned certain kinds of Muslim worship. They banned protesting. Again, they did a violent crackdown and killed people. They went into the religious-leaning news channels and shut them down. So there's no good guys in this story. And you ready for the most ominous part of all from the article on this? Quote, el-Sissi campaigned on promises to bring back stability and achieve great leaps in repairing the economy, but he also said demands for freedom should be reined in because they fuel turmoil and showed little tolerance for dissent. Whoa, that's fucking scary. When you have a guy who just supposedly won an election, he stole it, but now he's in power and he goes, yeah, here's what we're going to do. Fix the economy, we'll focus on that, but also take away your freedoms. So what's going on in Egypt right now? You basically traded one dictator for another dictator for a third dictator. Look, I don't know what the solution is over there. You're not going to hear a lot about this in the press in the United States. You want to know why? Because we like it that el-Sissi won. The U.S. government likes it that el-Sissi won. Because he's an ally of ours. I mean, that's the sad truth. We'll continue to funnel him money, and, then he'll buy our weapons back from us with the money that we sent him. It's part of the military-industrial complex. It's part of this rampant corruption that goes on. We give them over $1 billion a year, I think it is. So our government likes the fact that he won, so we'll act like it's not a big deal and it's nothing. But the people of Egypt are going to be fucked even further, man. Look, again, I don't know what the answer is. I really, really don't know what the answer is. But I have to say, if the choice is either el-Sissi or Mohammed Morsi, I would have said you should have stuck with Morsi. Because at least his election, at least it was up in the air as to whether or not it was stolen. You know? At least it was like, well, we don't really know. It might have been, it might not have been. And again, I disagree with the Muslim Brotherhood, but he did a power grab, but his power grab isn't as bad as what el-Sissi has already done and what he's going to continue to do. It pains me to say it, man, but the second revolution might have been a mistake. And I fear that even bringing up the idea of doing a third revolution, that just validates what I said before, that you would be solidifying the idea that you're a failed state. So Egypt is in a fucking pickle, to say the least. I don't like where this went, and it's certainly not going to go in a better place. What this is Mubarak Part 2.